Hello everybody, good morning and welcome to the United Stand. This is your latest Manchester United transfer news. And I tell you what, we've got a lot to get our teeth into this morning because we've got a new keeper that Manchester United are looking at. We've also got an update on Victor OSIMHEN coming in from Europe. He wants to make the next step, and that next step could well be Manchester United because they're saying that Manchester United's number one target this summer is not Harry Kane and it is Victor OSIMHEN. We'll talk about that goalkeeper situation as well. We've got a bit, well, we spoke about it last night, didn't we? This Garnacho tackle looks like it's going to be a period on the sidelines, not going to be part of the Argentinian international team now. And again, look, I said it last night, I don't need to repeat it. The scissor tackle is the most reckless tackle in football. We've lost Donny van der Beek, we've lost Eriksen, and now we've lost Garnacho with scissor tackles that are out of control and reckless. No yellow cards, I think, were given for any of those. Disgusting, absolutely disgusting. But apparently, if you show your studs, it's the worst tackle in football. It's a nonsense. But you know what? We'll be in the minority because the experts and the powers that be, they don't want to listen, man. They don't want to listen. Also, really important, if you're a member of the channel, on the community tab, we've got a vote on the ownership of Manchester United. I want to get into the transfer news, but I want to get this out there very, very quickly so you can do your vote and we'll hit it in a few minutes if you're a member. Now, the reason we've done it as a member is there are a few journalists out there that are arguing on Twitter on a daily basis trying to make out that real United fans don't want Qatari ownership and that the polls that say that fans do want it are bots and fake fans and e-fans. So we did a poll 3 or 4 times now, and I know what the percentage is of United fans that want Qatari ownership. But we're going to do a poll on our members section because our members section is a paid section that people support the channel with. You're not going to get bots on there because no one can access it unless they're an actual member. So we're going to do a members poll on the ownership, and we're going to reveal it in a few minutes' time. And there ain't no way these naive, bitter, biased, jealous journalists can say it's bots or anything like that. What you've got here is people in the media who don't want Man United owned by Qatar. Instead of having the balls to say why, they're trying to say that most United fans don't want it. And it's not true. It's just not true. So we will come to that in a minute or two. But first of all, we're going to start off with some breaking news, and it's around transfer news. Let's start off with this. So this is coming in from Plettigol. You may remember Plettigol on Twitter. Florian Plettiberg, I think his name is pronounced. German journalist, very good around the European scene. Normally we hear more about him around transfers, and certainly in the summer when Man United are looking at European targets. So Victor OSIMHEN is focusing on the next step. This means transfer. Man United, Man City, Chelsea and PSG are in for the Nigerian striker, and the transfer fee will be around 100 million euros. Now, look, I personally think it'll be around £100 million because Napoli are difficult to deal with. But I'm quite encouraged by this because ultimately Napoli are going to win Serie A at a canter. They're absolutely dominating it. Hopefully they'll win the Champions League. I'd love that to happen. I mean, I think most people, Napoli are to the Champions League what Brighton are to the Premier League. They're a team that everybody really, really likes, play football in the right way. They're an underdog. But I don't think he'll go for 100 million euros. I think he'll go for about 100 million pounds, maybe 120 million pounds. I don't think anyone's got a massive problem with that. But it's the quality of club that's interested in that draws my attention. There's 2 things about this that have sort of been, well, and we've got Romano on the show later, so we can speak to him. But ultimately, there's 2 things about that story that really capture my eye. One, that OSIMHEN wants to make the next step, and this is the second time in about 2 weeks we've heard this. Welcome to the Members Club, Manran. Don't forget to do your vote on the community tab. But it's the second time we've heard this from OSIMHEN's camp in the last couple of weeks, that, you know, he's focused on the next step, and the next step to him is to play in the Premier League. So all due respect to Napoli, but he's got a career path that he wants to follow. It's the same as Erling Haaland at Dortmund. It's the same as Ramos at Benfica. You know, these strikers that are doing well at clubs that are not traditionally big clubs, they want to go and test themselves. Look, if I'm playing up front for Napoli, I'm loving it. But ultimately, if I'm playing up front for Brighton, Ferguson, I'm loving it. But ultimately, I want to go and play up front for Real Madrid or Manchester United. You know, I want to go and play for big clubs, and that's obviously what OSIMHEN wants to do. The second thing that interests me is the fact that there's lots of clubs interested. It's not a free path to Manchester United, and if we are to start treading a new path with new ownership, then we need to start doing something we don't do. Tell me the last time Manchester United won a transfer for a player that other clubs wanted. We don't do that. And this is what I like about this deal. this is quite clearly the player that Ten Hag would like because of his age profile and his ability to develop. And also, it's a player that a lot of clubs would want. In fact, welcome to the Members Club. Thank you for being a member for 7 months. Now, don't forget that Erik Ten Hag wanted Darwin Núñez. I wanted Darwin Núñez. I think some of you wanted Darwin Núñez. I think he would have been a good player at Man United, but we didn't get him because he went to Liverpool. We wanted Erling Haaland when Solskjaer was here. He went to Dortmund and then he went to Man City. We've got to start making these deals happen. Harry Kane. And I know it says there, should Man United buy Harry Kane? Harry Kane's a top-class striker. He's a world-class striker. There's no point debating that. But he's a tap-in. Like, nobody else wants Harry Kane or can get Harry Kane. Is that a concern to people? Or is it actually a positive? But I think the positive for United is, if we're really going to change, is to go and sign a player like OSIMHEN that everybody else wants. And by doing that, you show that we're different. And look, Chelsea will want him. PSG will want him. I don't know why Man City would want him, but then why not have 2 strikers? Maybe they want 2 strikers. I don't know. But this is exactly the sort of player that we need to be going for. And I'm encouraged by the noise that is around him because I think he's exactly what we need to bring in. And then further to this, Plettigol says, Man United are not seriously considering a transfer for Harry Kane at this stage. The total financial package would be too expensive and OSIMHEN is more attractive for Manchester United. Well, look, this could just be news. It could be true. I don't know. But the reality is, I do think there's some truth in that because Harry Kane's going to cost £100 million with 1 year left on his contract and 30 years of age. That is too much money. Spurs notoriously drive a hard bargain and so does Daniel Levy, but if we're being completely honest, a player with 1 year left on his contract who's 30 years of age should be going for about 70 million. That's what, and Harry Kane's fantastic, but it's a buyer's market, it's a seller's market, isn't it? And Spurs are going to push that to 100 million. Harry Kane, people don't mention this. It's his last big contract. He's probably going to want 300 grand a week. So you're going to pay 300 grand a week for Harry Kane and 100 million pounds to Spurs. It's a very expensive package for a 30-year-old striker who's got 1 year left on his deal. OSIMHEN might cost you a little bit more, but you get a lot more out of him. We gain a lot of respect for getting OSIMHEN to CGI. Yeah, look, I personally as a fan, I don't really care about perception and what respect from other clubs. It's about winning on the pitch, but Man United care about that. Brand Manchester United care about that. New owners need to care about that. I said it last night, I look at Enzo Fernandez. What a signing by Chelsea. That was fantastic. I know they spent a lot of money on him, but Enzo Fernandez left Benfica way too early. He was only there 6 months. He literally signed for them last summer and he left in January. The audacious tenacity and cheek of Chelsea to sign Enzo Fernandez was remarkable. And I know they've got a scattergun approach, but that doesn't mean that some of their signings are not fantastic. And what they did there with Enzo Fernandez is, most clubs would have said, let's wait till the summer and fight it out with Real Madrid and everybody else. What Chelsea did is they go, the way to do this deal is to move in January when no one else has got any money and sign him. And that's what they did. It was aggressive, it was ruthless, and it earns a lot of respect from the rest of the football industry. There's bitterness there, of course, because I would have loved Enzo Fernandez, but it's a fantastic signing. You do and can and do and are and will and can earn respect from transfers. And I think if Man United went out and bought Victor Osimhen, there'd be a lot of clubs going, that's not like Man United. That's a good signing. Lots of clubs wanted him. We've got to get into that race and we've got to get out of the single race and get into the, stop trying to do lap times and get in the actual race. Like Harry Kane is another lap time signing. It's a one, you're the only car on the track. We need to get into the actual race with other cars and see if we can win, because that's when you earn respect. And ultimately, let's be honest, there's a bit of a message there, isn't there? If we keep signing players no one else wants, and we're not signing players everyone else wants, there's a bit of a message there. It's not always the case. Look, Bruno Fernandes was a January signing, a little bit like Enzo Fernandez. No one else had the money, we got him. Harry Kane for 80 million. Man City were apparently interested at 60, but obviously we went way over price. Sancho, nobody else was interested. There's a few others that we bought where no one else has been interested. But look, let's start buying players other players want, because ultimately that means they're a good player, doesn't it? Hi Mark, would you take Osimhen, 120 million, Ferguson 30, 40 and Raya or Costa for another 25 if Qatar are the new owners, says Dylan. Well, we're going to talk about a goalkeeper in a minute. But I would take Osimhen, yes, Dylan. I agree that Kane is world class, says Nicholas, but the Premier League proven argument is not really valid. Look at Torres at Chelsea and Sanchez at United. He can still flop, says Nicholas. Welcome to Members Club Q and Wolfie as well. Appreciate that. So yeah, look, Osimhen. Look, I think in summary, what we can say is that Victor Osimhen wants to leave Napoli. Whether it's this summer or next summer, he will leave, and he wants to leave. Not because he doesn't like it there, but because he wants to progress his career, which is absolutely his right. There will be a lot of interest. I'd remove Man City from that interest. I think Chelsea will be in there. I think PSG will probably be in there as well. Maybe even Real Madrid would be in there, to be honest with you. And we need to be in there because I'm telling you now, he's the hot property this summer transfer window. And I tell you what as well, if you're going to get new owners, and they come into that club before the summer transfer window, and you've got Richard Arnold saying, look, we like Osimhen, but it's a hard deal to do, so we're going to go for Harry Kane. If I was the new owners, I'd say, we're not. We're going to go for Osimhen. I'm not here for easy. I'm here to make us the best. Go and get me Victor Osimhen. And also, get your coat on the way out. You're fired. To get premium players, you need to top negotiators, not the shower we have at the moment. Your Seb and the Little Devils could do a better job, says Ginger. And I'm bloody naffed off with this Palestri loan nonsense. He's past that point now and has a lot to offer. I'm going back to me full English now, says Cyril. I didn't speak about this last night. Just very, very quickly, there was a story yesterday that that we're going to loan out Palestri. And a lot of people weren't happy about it. But I think we're also going to offer him a new contract as well. And that's far better than, loaning him or selling him. So, look. Garnacho's injured, by the way. He is injured. There was a bit of hope last night, but Garnacho is injured. So maybe there's an opportunity for Palestri to get a bit of game time because Garnacho's been getting a lot of game time. And if he's not available for a month or two, hopefully Palestri can be the guy that gets that opportunity because, I think there's a player there with Palestri. I really do. I think if Palestri was under Pep Guardiola, he'd be playing a lot more football because he's that low centre gravity technique footballer. In some ways... Do I dare say this? Yes, I do. If Palestri hits his potential, he's a better Sancho. Oh, I've said it. But actually, I think Palestri. You look at Garnacho, he's a wide flair player. You look at Rashford, he's a wide flair player. You look at Anthony, he's a wide flair player. I look at Palestri and Sancho, and I see technique. I think they're technical players that can give and go and play the passes, low centre gravity players. But Palestri can also run at a player quite quickly and skip past them. But Sancho can do that. But, Palestri potentially can be the competitor to Sancho. But obviously if he gets loaned out, that won't happen. And you need competition. Hi, Mark. If Todd Boehly never bought Chelsea, what would your thoughts be if he made a bid for Man United, says Heros? Wow, it's hypothetical there, isn't it, mate? I mean, I don't think he's done a bad job at Chelsea. I just think it's been a bit scattergun. I think when it settles down, Chelsea will be okay. John, welcome to the Members Club. Thank you very much for that. Appreciate it. Right, let's just... I want to talk about this new goalkeeper that Man United are looking at. Joe says, how long is Garnacho out for? Don't know, mate. Don't know, but it's... look, we spent all day yesterday talking about this. The approach of the mainstream media, and more importantly, the Premier League and the officials, is to adopt the head in the sand approach. They basically let us vent for a couple of days, we move on, and they get away with it. And they've been doing this for years, and that's how they get away with it. There will be no independent regulation. There will be no improvement in the refereeing or the use of VAR. They will continue to make shockingly inept and incompetent decisions, and they will continue to get away with it. People are right to move on. You're just expending pointless energy because they're not going to change anything about it. But I will say this, and then I'll move on. Casemiro showing a bit of stud to tackle the ball is not reckless and out of control. You can tackle with your studs and not hurt somebody. What's reckless and out of control is the scissor tackle, which is becoming more and more prominent in Manchester United's season. The scissor tackle is an absolute out-of-control, reckless tackle that people applaud as fantastic, but actually it's ridiculously dangerous for the player that gets tackled. The scissor tackle is the Wan-Bissaka tackle. It's the one where you've been beat and you last-ditch tackle to come round the back of the player and put the ball away. It's a good tackle. I don't think people should get banned or anything like that, but it's the hypocrisy of the Casemiro tackle being, targeted as the worst type of tackle in football. And yet we've lost 3 players this season with the scissor tackle. And everybody who plays the game or has played the game knows I'd much rather be on the end of Casemiro's tackle than Walker-Peters' tackle. Because Walker-Peters' tackle is taking both my legs away from behind, which I haven't seen, at full pelt, and I'm tangled. That's where you twist joints, break legs, do your ligaments. The Casemiro impact, if he catches me with the studs, it's a consistent, powerful body movement that is just going to whack me on the leg. It might break my leg if I'm really unlucky, but it's not tangling my leg. It's not twisting my leg. It's look at Donny, look at Garnacho, and look at Eriksen. I'd rather any of them got Casemiro's tackle at the weekend than what they got, because what they got was twisted, and that's what a scissor tackle does. We don't want to have this conversation in football, but it's true. You can't be giving out red cards for Casemiro and then letting these scissor tackles go. But ultimately, I don't want red cards for either. It's an impact sport. I thought Walker-Peters' tackle was good. I think Wan-Bissaka's tackles are good. But they're very dangerous because you're wrapping your legs around the attacker and you're out of control. And we're losing players because of it. So, look, people don't want to have this tackle because you know what? You see that on the terrace, you see that on the TV, and you go, what a great last-ditch tackle that is. But it's the most reckless tackle in football. Because it is last-ditch. It's from behind. It's out of control. And it's focused on the ball. You're not focused on the player. But, I've had my say on that. Anyway, we've lost 3 players with serious injuries this season because of that tackle. Nobody will have the conversation. This is why mainstream's losing behind, because it's full of script and, bias, and the officiating is a joke. I'm worried the repercussions of his 4-match ban is even bigger. He'll be hesitant for a 50-50 tackle now. You know what he needs to do, Akil? He needs to stop tackling like that and start doing the scissor tackle, because you'll get away with that. Anyway, let's move on. I want to talk about the goalkeeper that Manchester United have been linked to, and then we're going to talk about this poll, which is absolutely huge. Let me just do this. So, let's put it up on the screen for you. Manchester United and Chelsea are interested in Swiss goalkeeper Gregor Kobel and have met with his agent. Contract till 2026, no release clause. He wants to stay 1 more year with Dortmund, and they have no intention to sell. So this is coming in from Patrick Berger, who is a German journalist, and obviously Robert Kobel plays for Dortmund in Germany. So it's a really interesting story, this, because you may remember that we were looking at Sommer, who ended up going to Bayern. So I think we're starting to get a bit of a theme here on what Man United are looking to do in the goalkeeping situation. So Gregor is a Dortmund goalkeeper. He's Swiss. I think he's in his mid-20s. He's about 6'4", and he's not the Dortmund first choice goalkeeper. So it's, if there's any truth in this, and Red Devil says we should buy OSIMHEN this year and Kane free next. If there's any truth in this, then it sort of points us into where Man United are looking at in goalkeepers. That we're definitely, look, if we go for him, he's going to come in and push De Gea, but he's not going to be first choice. And I don't know, look, maybe we will go for David Raya, maybe we will go for Sanchez, maybe we will go for, Oblak or something like that. But if you go for a goalkeeper like that, you're going for a goalkeeper that's going to be a very competent deputy goalkeeper. And that's going to be the interesting thing about the goalkeeping situation in the summer. Everybody's an agent, everybody's a manager in this fan base, and they're like, oh, we need to do this, we need to do that. But ultimately, it will come down to what Erik Ten Hag wants to do. I'd say if we get this guy, and I'll be honest, I don't know loads about him. Maybe some people in the chat do. What I do know is, Dortmund play high line. So you'd imagine that he's a high line goalkeeper. You'd imagine he's got sweeper keeper capabilities. He's 6'4", so you'd imagine he's decent coming off his line. I think he was at Stuttgart before. He did reasonably well there. I think he only signed for Dortmund in 2021. But look, we're probably not going to get him because I think he wants to stay at Dortmund for another year, and Dortmund don't want to sell him. But is it an indication that that's the sort of goalkeeper we're looking at? As I said, we were looking at Sommer in January. There was another goalkeeper we looked at as well. And every goalkeeper we've been linked to properly so far has been a very distinctive number 2. And, I think that will be the case. I might get proved wrong. And if Ten Hag decides to go for a David Raya or someone like that, I'll support it. Of course I will. But my prediction is David De Gea is going to sign a new contract on decent money, not as good now. He will remain the number 1 and we'll bring in an understudy. And I think that's what we'll do. I understand people wanting David Raya or, one of the best goalkeepers in Europe, like Costa or someone like that. But I just don't think United are going to spend that amount of money on a goalkeeper. I mean, the interesting thing about David Raya is he's got 1 year left on his contract, so you could get him quite reasonably. But I don't think United are going for a number 1. I don't think we're going to go for an out-and-out number 1. I think we're more likely to go with someone like this. But we'll see. It's interesting. Ross says that Kobel is the Dortmund's first choice. Well, he didn't play last week. He was on the bench. And he didn't play at the weekend. He was on the bench. They put... what's his name? Mailer. Mailer was in goal for both games in the Champions League and in the Bundesliga. So, I don't know where you're getting that from. Maybe he's lost his place, or maybe he's just instantly won it back. But he's not the number 1 goalkeeper at the moment. But look, maybe Ten Hag sees him as that. I don't know. But it's an interesting story, isn't it? And we'll certainly see what happens. KF says, "What about the Southampton goalkeeper?" Yeah, I tell you what, he had a. I mean, it would be very reactionary of me to say go and sign the Southampton goalkeeper. But I have been impressed with him when I've seen him. Southampton probably are going to get relegated, and I just don't know what his distribution's like. I don't know. What do we think of the protests on Sunday, says Robert McCormack? Well, I think any protest against Manchester United's owners is a good one at this point. We need to move this thing along ASAP, don't we? Which brings us nicely onto the next thing I wanted to talk about. So look, there's still a few things to go through here, but this caught my eye last night, and I think it's something that's always in the fan base's eye, and it's sort of to do with what Robert McCormack said there and about the ownership of Manchester United. So effectively, there is a couple of journalists, and I'm not even going to give them the steam off my piss here, because I just think it gives them what they want, the ability for people to go and search them out and listen to their opinions that they're trying to force on people through nothing other than their own opinion, but then trying to repackage it as the general consensus. So it's been going on for a few weeks now, and so much so that some of these debates are going on Twitter, like back and forth with journalists and fans. And basically, I saw one last night. Well, I tell a lie. I got one sent to me last night where a certain journalist is having a back and forth on Twitter with certain United fans about who wants Qatar and who doesn't. So anyway, it sort of goes along like this. It's well known, journalists basically saying it's well known that match-going fans, hashtag real fans, are very wary of Qatari ownership and don't want it, and they'd rather have Sajid. To which replies come in saying that's a nonsense. Every poll suggests that Man United fans in the majority want Qatar, and it's a bit like last season where apparently real fans wanted Poch, but everybody wanted Ten Hag. To which the response to that from the journalist was along the lines of, and we've heard this from a few other people, well, you can't take any notice of a Twitter poll, there's bots and everything like that. To which somebody then said, well, the United Stand have run numerous polls on their, and it's the biggest Man United fan channel in the world, and you're still getting well over 70% wanting Qatar. To which it then came back with, well, look, The Athletic is a paid subscription area, and that vote came in favour of Sir Jim. So, look, in my humble opinion, and I'm all for democracy and I'm all for an opinion, and to me, I've not said which ownership model I want, because I don't think it's really important at this moment until we know who is going to be the owner. I want super wealth. I've been very consistent about that, because I think that's what United need after 17 years of turmoil and ultimately sabotage that we need to put right with investment, and quite a lot of investment. But this last night, I put it on the members I'll put it on the community tab. If you ever go on the community tab on the homepage of United Stand, there'll be votes and stuff there, sporadically there. But we can do them just for the members. So obviously, if you're a member of United Stand, thank you very much. Thanks for supporting the channel. To do that, obviously, it's a paid subscription to do it, and therefore it can't be targeted by bots. It's a poll that's there for the members who support the channel. It's a protected area. It can't be botted. It can't, you're not going to get thousands of people just becoming a member of United Stand. It's just not going to happen just to, manipulate a vote. I almost feel like it has been, though, because we put the poll up last night. We've had 1,500 votes, which is, virtually all of our members, basically. Sir Jim Radcliffe got 6%. Other got 1%. Altani got 93%. 93%. You've got over 1,000 people voting there. They're United Stand Members Club, so it's a closed shop, really. You can't manipulate it. 93% have voted from our members section, which can't be botted and isn't on social media, and it's not a public vote. So in contrast to what The Athletic did, 93% have voted for Altani, which actually stuns me. I mean, that's an absolute landslide. And the great thing about a poll is you can poll 100,000 prats, or you can poll 500 people who actually care about the topic. And I'd always go with the 500. I'd rather, if I want to know what Liverpool fans think about their ownership, I'd rather speak to 500 hardcore Liverpool fans from around the world than put it out to 100,000 people in the Daily Mail, because you'll get United fans and all that. So well done if you voted. Thank you very much to the members, but you've actually served the community, the wider community here. And Josh Dude's just gifted 20 memberships. Josh, you're a legend for that. Thanks, pal. But it's not about being a member of the United Stand, and if you are, thank you very much. And big shout out to Josh. It's also, Josh is getting loads of love now, but it's a fantastic way for us to be able to run a poll which is clean. And if you're not a member, it doesn't make you any less. God, no, it doesn't. But what I'm saying is, we can run a poll there where it's a protected area of people who are United fans and United members, United Stand members. Over 90% want Altani. So if you're getting into these debates online, I did that for you last night because ultimately that's the truth. And we don't even push Qatar on this channel. Like, we did a video on Sir Jim yesterday. It's just where we're at in this sale process. And I know it. I know it. And people can pretend it's not true. There are people who do not want Qatari ownership. I get it. But the vast majority... Josh has just gifted another 20. Josh is on fire this morning. Legend, this is going to be the Josh show. There are people that do not want the Qatari ownership. But if you're a journalist or a fan that doesn't want Qatari ownership, own it and tell us why. That's the best weapon you've got. Tell us why you don't want it as an individual. But don't try and pretend you're in the majority, because you're not. And that might be massively frustrating. It is. But, it's like, it'd be like people saying, me saying I want Bruno as captain and the vast majority of the fan base wanting Harry Maguire. I wouldn't like it. It wouldn't be my opinion, but the majority speaks. The majority want this Qatari ownership. Now, whether that's right or wrong or why they want it, that's up for debate, but there you go. Would season ticket holders be 93%, says Robert McCormack. I personally, Robert, I think that's a good question. I personally think the real number, if you did Man United season ticket holders, would be about 70%, maybe 75%. I know a lot of Man United season ticket holders. I think there's a lot of United fans that don't publicly want to scream and shout from the rooftops that they want Qatar to own United. But I think there's a private acceptance in a lot of the fan base that we need super wealth. We don't need debt. We don't need moral slow build ownership. We need to right the wrongs of the last 17 years. And the wrongs of the last 17 years has been debt, lack of infrastructure, and a stadium that's rotting. The only way to come back from those three things, lack of investment, debt, and a stadium that's rotting, is to spend billions of pounds. So if you acknowledge the three major problems, you must have super wealth. And the super wealth option is Qatar at the moment. And I think there's a lot of fans that look at it like that. Because what Sir Jim represents, from what we know publicly, is where's the money coming from to build the stadium? Where's the money coming from to back Ten Hag? Where's the money coming from for the infrastructure? Where's it all coming from when you're putting yourself into debt to buy the club? So I would say, Robert, that I don't care whether it's match-going fans or worldwide fans, I don't think there's any different. And a match-staying, I mean, I think it's such a cliche that people think that a match-going fan has a Mancunian accent and was born within 5 minutes of Old Trafford. It's bullshit. I'd love a poll on the demographic of Man United season ticket holders, because I don't know the answer, but most season ticket holders I know, that, you know, I'd say about 50% of them are Mancunian and 50% aren't. So, you know, I think we need to move away from this stereotypical match-going fans are the real fans, and they're all from Manchester. That's not the case. It's not the case. We're a worldwide fan base, and we have been for decades. But personally, I think I just think that these polls that match-going fans or real fans don't want Qatar are bollocks. I don't even think it's 50-50. I don't think it's anywhere near. I think it's 70% do. I think there's concerns, but I still think they want it. ID, welcome to the Members Club. Hi, Mark. Just wanted to thank you and United Stand for such great content, says Tristan. And Nee, thank you very much. Welcome to the Members Club. I just think it's important that, I think at times in the past, we have to hold our hands up as a community and say that we were probably a little bit over the top about certain things. But things change and things grow. And I think as a community, we've become a lot more aware and a lot more responsible of the other side of the argument. And I think that's really important. We can all be passionate about our opinions, but ultimately I think you've got to call out the nonsense, haven't you? And I think this nonsense, that this is almost becoming a myth, that real United fans don't want Qatar. No, certain journalists and certain fans don't, but they're in the minority, I'm afraid. And the truth will set you free. People want the truth, don't they? It's like, I've got to say this as well. We're interested in football. That's what we're here to talk about. We're interested to talk about football, aren't we? We've had all this stuff about Gary Lineker over the weekend. And I saw yesterday Gary Neville put a tweet out saying apology, taking the piss out of the fact that the apology from BBC for Gary Lineker wasn't good enough. His replies were full of, but when are you going to apologise to Bruno? Which he still hasn't done. And I'm like, look, Gary's very political. He always has been. Lineker and Neville. Must be something about the name. Who calls their kid Gary anymore, by the way? Does anybody know anybody who's got a kid called Gary? Why don't people call people Gary anymore? I don't get it. Anyway, Gary Neville and Gary Lineker are very political. They're very consistent about that. I don't have a problem with that. But ultimately, the millions of followers that you've got is because of football. That's why you have a voice that you can imprint your politics on. You have millions of followers because you do things like Monday Night Football and Match of the Day. And then you use your politics, you use your football platform to spread your politics. That's up to you. But, I didn't tweet anything yesterday because I just can't be bothered, because personally I think Gary Neville is a legend of Manchester United and I respect him as a football player and legend of this club, and occasionally I respect his opinions. But, yesterday he's going on about politics again, and the BBC need to apologise to Gary Lineker. And all these people are in his replies going, but when are you going to apologise to Bruno Fernandes? And it's the same with this bloody Qatar thing, isn't it? We're here to talk about Manchester United. It's Manchester United we want to talk about, and Man United winning the Premier League and the Champions League and making the club better for everybody. You've got to call it out. Like, the truth is, there isn't some mythical poll that most United fans don't want Qatar. Most fans do. Maybe you want to delve into why that is. I think there's a really interesting story there for a journalist. Why do so many Man United fans want to take the risk, if you want to call it that, of Qatar? There's a story there, but they're all trying to pretend that we don't want it. It's manipulation of the truth. In a way, I agree with people who were in Neville's responses yesterday. going on and on and on about an apology from the BBC to Gary Lineker. Where's your apology to Bruno Fernandes for saying publicly on national TV that he wanted to come off the pitch, which damaged his reputation for days? When are you going to apologise to the captain of the club that you captained and you're a legend of? You publicly outed him in front of millions saying that he wanted to come off the pitch. You've not apologised for that. But you're talking about the BBC should apologise to Gary Lineker. And you've made a career from football. You're a legend of this football club, but you won't apologise to Bruno Fernandes, who's the captain of the club you captained, who then went and played brilliantly on Thursday. Why don't you apologise? And this is what I mean. It's like everybody just goes off on their tangents because they want to just tell the story they want to tell. You know, that journalist doesn't want Qatar to own Man United, so wants to make up a story that everybody else wants it. You know, Gary Neville wants to go on about Gary Lineker and everything, an apology there, but doesn't want to apologise about Bruno Fernandes because it's not as important. You know, we're here to talk about football. We don't need politics. We don't need manipulation. We're here to talk about football. It's the beautiful game and it's full of brilliant debate. And most people have made a career off it. So actually start talking about it because that's what people respect you for. It's for your football. Stop getting lost in hypocrisy and lies and contradictions and manipulation. There's a true story to be told, and that's what people want. The truth will set us free. At this moment in time, for some reason, the vast majority of this fan base want Qatari ownership because it represents super wealth. Maybe Sir Jim would be better. When do you think the rebuilding of the stadium is going to start if new owners comes in? Could it be as early as next season, says Oscar. I don't know, Oscar. I mean, will we buy... why do journalists push Sir Jim, says Charles? Same. You know what? I can answer that one, Charles. I mean, I want to move on, but I can answer that. The reason I think, and this is an opinion piece, it's not based on stats or facts. The reason I think the British journalist world and the mainstream media and maybe ex-players, I don't know, will push Sir Jim is because it's the same reason the British media and ex-players will push Harry Maguire over Victor Lindelof. It's bias. It's the same reason they pushed Pochettino over Ten Hag. It's a bias. Sometimes it's a British bias because Sir Jim and Harry are British, but Poch wasn't. But he sort of was because he'd managed here, he'd been on the TV with them, it's mates rates. I just think it's bias. I think that Sir Jim is a local guy, he's a British millionaire, a billionaire, he's a Man United fan, we know more about him. You could take him down the pub for a pint. You know, it's that sort of thing. I mean, I don't know whether Sir Jim drinks, but you could take him down the pub for a lemonade and a lamb lunch. It's just a bias, and we see it every day. They were wrong about Poch. You know, they've been wrong about Maguire, and they might be wrong about this. But look, Sir Jim Radcliffe could be I'm not anti Sir Jim. You know, we were all singing Sir Jim in August because it was a much better offer than Qatar. If he gets Man United, I think it'd be very interesting. I'm certainly not anti it, but I think the concern with Sir Jim is that it doesn't look like he's got the money, and that's what we need. I'm not sure if you've spoken about Dermot Gallagher's take on the handball in our game at the weekend. He's basically just said that 99% of handball shouldn't be given. The Premier League needs new officials. Sean, we spoke about it yesterday. I don't know what to say, Sean. I really don't know what to say about the officiating in the Premier League. It's disgusting. You know, you're right. That handball explanation, he's basically laughing about it. You know, basically laughing that a ball has moved 20 metres and that a defender has moved his hand out the way to try and avoid handballing it, handballs it, and he says it doesn't hit his hand, it's not a handball. You know, how are we as the consumer supposed to understand what a handball is when you've got somebody on national TV lying to protect a select few of incompetent officials? You know, it's a dictatorship. You know, that's what we've got. I don't, you know, this is the United stand, but it could be, you know, Arsenal stand, Chelsea stand. It doesn't matter. We're all being dictated to. The masses are being dictated to by a handful of incompetent people. You know, history is full of this in a lot more serious ways. We're being dictated to by officials that change the rules to protect themselves. They're literally manipulating the rules every day and then sending somebody on TV on a Monday morning to try and brainwash us. Mikael Roach has just gifted a membership. Hope you're doing well, Mikael, this morning. Thank you very much. And JT says, I don't get it, Mark. With the push of Sir Jim and constant attack at Qatar, look what he's done at Nice. Why isn't that being questioned? JT, look, there's plenty of reasons to look at Sir Jim. Whether it's what Ineos make their money from, Greenpeace might want to, wouldn't be a big fan of them. Nice hasn't gone particularly great. Taking debt on from US institutions to buy the club and saddling Ineos with it. There's loads to question about it. Whereas Qatar are saying, we're going to buy the club, we're going to buy this, that, and the other, we've got the money. You know what I mean? Man United get top 4, although Arsenal may still be top of the league. We still need to play Man City, says Lando. Okay, Lando wants us to get top 4. I think we all want that. If you're tuning in a little bit late, by the way, just to let you know that we were talking earlier about the OSIMHEN story. Apparently Man United are in for OSIMHEN and he does want to move. So that would be interesting if we get the right owners in. We've also spoken about the Garnacho injury. Looks like it's more significant than we'd hoped. Looks like he could be out for at least a month by the sounds of it. Won't be part of the international break with Argentina, which is obviously a concern. Also been linked to the Dortmund keeper. There's a bit of a debate about whether this Dortmund keeper is their number 1 or not. He didn't play against Chelsea and he didn't play at the weekend, but apparently might have been ill or coming back from injury. But look, I don't think he will actually leave anyway. But interesting goalkeeper profile. I don't think he's renowned as one of the best ball-playing goalkeepers in the world, Cobel. But it's interesting. It's an interesting story. I'd certainly acknowledge that. And yeah, we've just done that poll, which was very interesting because ultimately, I think there's a lot of people out there who just want to pretend the situation. Look, I said it last week and I'll say it again. For me, I want the best people to own Manchester United that are going to invest in the club over the short term to make us a big football club again. I purposely haven't said which way I want to go in relation to the ownership because it's not going to be my choice. And ultimately, I'm not 100% convinced that I know who the next owner of Man United is going to be. So I don't want to sort of pin all my hopes. I mean, look, last year, if you were watching the channel at this time, it was Ten Hag every day. We need Ten Hag. We need Ten Hag. It was like a bloody election campaign. And I'd have been floored, absolutely floored emotionally if we hadn't have got Ten Hag and we'd gone with Poch. And where would we be with Poch a year later? Nowhere near where we are now. The ownership model is different because I don't feel as passionately about any actual candidate. My preference would probably be Qatar if I had to choose because of the wealth, but there are concerns about that. It's the big unknown. Once you've made that jump, you can't get out. But on the same hand, if it's Sir Jim, and they're the two options I would go with, by the way. There's nothing better on the table at the moment. If you go with Sir Jim, it could be better than Qatar, but there are some red flags. It could be a lot worse. So for me, I don't really feel the need to express which I want at this moment in time. But I do think you've got to call out the bias and the manipulation that's going on around it. I mean, I saw one article saying that there was protests at Old Trafford about Qatari ownership. I mean, is it maybe that's what Robert McCormack's talking about on Sunday? There was protests about the Qatari ownership. Did anyone see that? Because I tell you what, if there was protests, they've done a shit job at promoting it. Because I heard about a banner from Amnesty International, but I never saw it. And I certainly didn't see anything in the mainstream media or anything like that. I've seen a few articles written about it, because obviously those people want to try and blow it up. But I haven't seen anything. I've not seen anything about those articles. Should have got Isaac when we were in for him, says Showtime. We would have seen photos of it, surely, says Ross. The banner was tiny, says Jetro. I think you need to check your own bias as well, Mark, says Brennan. Can you tell me what the bias is? I'm more than happy, but what bias do I have? I mean, I would imagine it's the fact that I think David De Gea is a good goalkeeper and I want to stand by him till the end of the season. That's not bias. That's based on evidence. It's based on my interpretation of what's important to Manchester United. That's not bias, mate. David De Gea played shit last week and I called it out. It would be biased to say he didn't. So I don't know what bias you're on about. I don't go out here and start manipulating and pretending that 80% of the fan base wants a gym when they don't. And I think you raise a good point, because actually I think there's just general fear about this. I respect a lot of our chat because you do say what you think, but I think anybody with any semblance of viewership in the United fan base sort of comes out with stuff like, I'd rather not get Qatar. Why? I just think it might be a cheat code. That's not why you really don't want them. I know people who are doing content in this world of football who adamantly, you can see it in their face, you can see it in their voice. They don't want Qatar, and they don't want Qatar because of very serious issues, but they're terrified of saying it because they'll be called a hypocrite because they went to Qatar or stuff like that. But they don't want Man United to be owned by Qatar. They don't, but they're terrified of telling you why. So they sort of come out with stuff about it won't be a level playing field, and yet we've got two clubs that are richer than us already. Even if we get Qatari ownership, Man City is still richer, and Newcastle are still richer. Doughty says if we don't get Qatar, Liverpool will. Well, I mean that's for another day. That's for another day. What's my opinions on Wan-Bissaka, says JK4. I didn't actually think he played very well on Sunday, Wan-Bissaka. I think it's probably his worst game he's had since Christmas. I don't think it was bad. I think it was an average performance, but I was surprised by, and maybe he was a bit tired, I don't know. He did get beat a few times in one-on-ones, which I don't ever expect Wan-Bissaka to do. I think he's earned the right to be the first choice right back at the moment, but it's interesting, isn't it? Because Wan-Bissaka on Sunday sort of looked a bit human, like he did make a couple of mistakes, and I don't think he's been like that. I think he's been incredible for the last few weeks. I think we've got a good battle at right back because Dalot has fell off since the World Cup. Before the World Cup he was brilliant, and then he fell off, and then Wan-Bissaka's come in and he's been brilliant. The biggest compliment I can play to Wan-Bissaka is we shouldn't be moving him on in the summer, and he was meant to go in January, and they tried to sell him last summer, but this summer we should just remove a right back from the menu. We don't need a right back. Now apparently we're still linked to Frimpong, but we don't need another right back. And if we did buy a right back, I'd be stunned, because I'd almost be excited, because I'd be like, oh my God, I think Dalot's been brilliant this season, Wan-Bissaka's been brilliant this season, and still Ten Hag wants a right back, which means that neither Wan-Bissaka or Dalot are actually doing the job he wants. So he wants better than that. But I don't think we should buy a right back in the summer, and I think for Wan-Bissaka and Dalot, I can't see either of them. I can't see Wan-Bissaka putting a transfer request in, and I can't see Dalot saying I'm not going to sign a new contract, because that right back position is yours. You've just got to fight for it, and there will be injury and there will be rotation. So I personally would keep both. Peter, thank you very much. Welcome to the Members Club. When's Ericsson back? Says C. I think he'll be back in April. I think he will be back in April. And I agree with Savage. He says I'm very happy with both of them. And yeah, I do think, you talk about the fan base again. Unfortunately, I do think there is still a hangover from the Ollie and Mourinho and Van Gaal days, where fans fall into this silly trap of, sort of putting one player against the other, and then they don't like one player and they like the other. We had it with Bruno and Pogba. We had it with Martial and Rashford. There was a few others we had it with. We shouldn't have it anymore, because Ten Hag is building a squad, not a first 11. And I like Malacia and Shaw. I have a preference, but I like them both. I like Dalot and Wan-Bissaka. I have a preference when they're both playing well, but that's not happened at the same time. So Wan-Bissaka deserves to start, but I like them both. I don't see the point in going back to those dark days of disliking one United player and liking another because you'd rather they'd play. I think we're getting to a point now where, Bruno's one of my favourite players, but if we buy a number 10 and they're playing better, Bruno sits on the bench. I'm not going to spend my time going, why is Bruno not playing? Because I think you've got to, I totally trust Ten Hag, and I think we're building something, and I think that's the way to be. Interesting question here. I don't have any update on Sabitzer. Hopefully we can get that update from Ten Hag tomorrow. because we need him. We need him back. But there was an interesting comment there about the medical staff. Sorry, it's whizzed by, typically. Interesting chat about the medical staff there saying, why did they let Garnacho and Eriksen play on for longer? Did it cause more damage? Look, in fairness to the medical staff, maybe they should have took them off straight away. Maybe they should have been on stretchers straight away. However, you know, they don't have an MRI scan on the pitch to see what ligament damage they've got. And, you know, sometimes, I've played the game, sometimes you twist your ankle and you can run it off in 5 minutes and you're just going to have a bit of swelling tomorrow and you can finish the game. Sometimes you twist your ankle, you've done ligament damage, you think you can run it off for 5 minutes and you're not running it off because you've done ligament damage. So I think in those cases it's very difficult to criticise a medical team because, you know, sometimes players can have really bad looking tackles and, you know, run it off in 2 minutes. Sometimes it can be something quite minor, try and run it off and, you know, they can't. Anyhow, we've got. I'm back at 8 o'clock tonight. I'm not doing a Man City champion. I don't do Man City. I'm not doing Man City. I'm doing a Champions League. I'm not doing a Champions League watch along tonight. So at 8 o'clock tonight, I'll be back on the show. We've also got Fabrizio Romano on the show this afternoon. I think it's at 2:30. So we've got Fabrizio on this afternoon. We'll be able to go through all the latest transfer news, and more importantly, Fabrizio is quite tapped well into the Qatar bid, as he said at the weekend. So we should be able to get a good update on that as well. Thanks everyone for watching. Make sure you subscribe and smash a like. Big shout out to all the members for that. Are you doing Twitch today, says JT? I'm not doing Twitch today, as I said yesterday. No, I can't. I'm off to Cheltenham a little bit later on, so I can't do Twitch today, but I will be back at 8. Thanks everyone for watching. Don't forget to tune in for Fabrizio. I'll speak to you all in a bit.